Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Exciting announcement for all of my listeners. I've officially opened my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, to the public. This group is by application only, so we can keep the group high vibe and spend our time, energy, and expertise only helping those of you who truly want massive success and impact. You get live weekly trainings from me, special guest coaches, and direct access to me and my business partner for all of your questions. To learn more and apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com, click on Work With Me, and select ProjectME Posse. And of course, any questions, feel free to DM me at ProjectMeWithTiffany. Welcome to the podcast and posse, ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. I'm your host, Tiffany. What's up, guys? So here's the thing. Not sure if you guys are aware of this horrific statistic, but 87% of people in the US over the age of 35 are in debt. And in 2018, we have amassed, just in the US alone, $1.5 trillion of debt. For those of you under 35 and listening, you guys have an average per person of $67,000 in debt. That's more than, most people make even in a year. That is insane. I know that this is an epidemic. I remember what happened to me in college, and I got targeted by credit card companies, and it was very alluring and attractive. And, you want to get all the new outfits and all the things. So I can see how it can happen quickly, especially with student loans. So I wanted to make sure that I had a solution for you guys. So I brought on Jessie White. She is a financial coach, but is also a debt expert. And I like having people on who've gone through the shit or are going through the shit themselves. It's not like, in my opinion, you don't just become an expert just by reading books and working with people. You had to have been in the trenches and been in debt yourself. So we're going to talk and teach you guys how you can start making your way out of debt, how to avoid getting back in debt, and everything in between. What's up, Jessie?
Hi. Thank you so much, Tiffany. I can't wait to be on the show.
So I'm really excited to have you on here. And truth be told, you guys know that I go after all of my own guests. We get pitched a lot, but someone has to feel really right and be a good fit. And of course, I found Jessie on Instagram and I was like, oh, this girl's going after a really good niche. She's going after, teaching people how to manage debt, get out of debt, avoid debt. What made you focus on something? It's not really the sexiest topic. So what made you want to get into this?
Yeah, so great question. So my background is actually in education, and the educator's life. I don't know if you're as familiar, but a lot of work for a lot of little pay, and it's a rough grind. And I wanted to stay on with my kids someday, and I was looking for other options. I have, a very specific skill set, and I was like, what is the worst problem, honestly, right now that I can educate people about? And the numbers, I think, really in the last 10 years started coming out about student loans, and credit card debt is on the rise. And I was like, this is an issue that needs to be addressed. And my background is in education. I want to educate people about this. I want to teach them about this. And it's something that people don't get taught in school. They're not taught in a formal way. And I was like, this is my opportunity. The technology is available. The need is there. And so I just went for it, and I'm loving it. I absolutely love working with my clients.
So what's cool is, again, you guys know that you come to me if you're not sure, how to make money on doing something you're passionate about. And I have, a 3-part exercise I've shared before on the podcast. If you want the episode, you can DM me at ProjectME with Tiffany. But she did this process without knowing it, right? She has a background as an educator. She is a teacher. She knows how to teach. And she found a problem, a hole in the market that needs to be solved. And it's something that she truly can relate to, wanted to teach about. And that's when you have winning success. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thanks. And I love teaching people, especially with side hustles. That is like where we start when I start talking about side hustles with people. Where are you skilled? Where are you already at in your professional life? Where can you serve? Finding those needs and filling those needs, that is really, like you said, where success happens for sure.
So are you in debt currently?
My husband and I are currently working to pay off our house. We're working to pay off our house early. And yeah, besides that, we're debt free.
Were you ever in debt?
So there was a very brief time in 2017. I'm very transparent about this on my Instagram page as well, where my husband and I, this is not advised, by the way, but my husband and I both switched careers within like the same 6-month period.
Holy
and
shit.
We both, exactly. And we both took huge pay cuts to do so, but we were just tired of like being in jobs where we weren't satisfied. He was commuting like almost an hour to work every day. And it was just like, we are going to self-implode. If we continue on this trajectory, it's over. Right. And so we're like, we're going to hustle our way out of this. We know how to budget. We know how to manage our money. And so we took the leap, and the credit card started to get bigger and bigger, and it didn't get smaller for a long time. And it was a scary time. Like we were debt free before that. Like I said, in that brief time, we had the credit card debt just because like I said, we were on a path that we didn't want to stay on. And so we got rid of it as soon as we could. And yeah, so that was while we were married. We had that brief section, and then I was able to graduate debt free. I went to a state school, super cheap. My housing, so I moved off campus as soon as I could to save money on housing. My rent was $125 a month. Yes, in Springfield, Missouri. Good old Springfield, Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, girl, were you like sleeping with roaches?
Yeah. So we were in a house that was over 100 years old. It's crazy. There was 8 girls in one house.
Oh my God, I would have died.
Yes, we had one full bath, so bathroom, shower, the whole thing.
Oh my God.
Yes. And then we had one half bath in like the main floor. So it was rough. Like, and I always tell my clients, like, I'm never asking you to do something that I haven't already done. Like,
amen, girl. See, this is why I had you on, because that's how I am. Is I don't, and I'm sure you're like me in this sense too. I don't advise you or anyone to do anything just for like busy work or because it's nice. Yeah. It's like we don't have time for that shit. So let me ask you this. Do you feel that it was worth some of the sacrifices you made when you were in college, in terms of like, you went to a less expensive school, you stayed in not the best living circumstances in order to graduate debt free? Do you feel that trade-off was worth it?
Yes, 100%. If I could advise anyone to do the same, I would. I absolutely would. The times, that I had there, it's crazy memories. It's crazy stories now, but it wasn't always fun in the moment. When you want to have people over and they're like, yeah, like it's winter time. Our house got really, really cold. They're like, well, maybe we'll go somewhere else, and it's like, it was those times that like, this really sucks. We didn't have air conditioning. So when I was there in the summer, it was like, I was sleeping in the library. Now it's going over to other people's houses, and it saved a lot of money, but it really was tough in that time, but I don't regret it at all.
But this is such an important principle that, you guys can establish and adopt in your own lives. What are you willing to sacrifice today? Because most people who are listening, based on the statistics, are in debt. Okay, we'll get into the different types of debt, because not all debt is bad. But most of you are in debt. Most of you are in credit card debt, quite frankly. So what are you willing to sacrifice today in order to start climbing out of debt, getting out of debt in order for the payoff later? So I want you guys for sure, after this episode, do some brainstorming and ask yourself this question, because look what Jessie did. I mean, I've sacrificed too, and it might not look like that from the outside, like when it's all relative. Like you're looking at, my Instagram feed or my stories or whatever, and you're like, Tiffany's a multimillionaire. She's living large, but I live below my means.
Yeah.
So I want you to talk about that, because clearly that's what you've done and what you and your husband continue to do, right? You live below your means. So
yeah.
Does that mean you're miserable?
Great question. So I love this because I like comparing it to kind of the fitness realm of like the before and after pictures, and people see the after pictures, but they don't see the work that goes on in between. And just because, like you said, we're not miserable, but we're smart. It's kind of like work smarter, not harder. We're frugal when it comes to being frugal. We splurge on things when we have the money, but overall it's like we're running the numbers, we know where we're at, and ultimately we are in control. And that's what I see a lack of a lot of times is like they're just people are hemorrhaging cash. They don't know where the money's going. They've got, they make their payments, they pay their bills first. I always get that. I'm paying my bills, and then it's kind of a big question mark after that. They don't know where it's going after that. So I feel like we're completely in control of our money, and that's really kind of the whole ball game. Are you in control, or is your money making decisions, and you're just kind of along for the ride?
Well, yeah. I mean, I work, given the stats, of course, right? The people I coach, most people I know, in that come to me for help are in some kind of debt. So not all debt is bad. So can you, go over the different kinds of debt?
Sure. Yeah. So I've really niched down to help people with student loans. Along with that, I would say probably 50% of the time when people come to me with student loans, they also have credit card debt and or a car loan. Leasing a car is a little less popular, at least with the people that I'm working with, but I know that's out there as well. And then, of course, mortgage debt, which student loans and mortgage debt are pretty much at the same spot right now in America as far as total debt goes, which is very scary because, your mortgage, like you're living in the house, you've got equity after it's over, you're building this asset. With student loans, you graduate, and now that is the asset, right? You're paying that back constantly. So same thing with credit cards. After you go out to eat and the food is gone, or the clothes are out of style, or, whatever, now you're paying that back on the second half of it. So basically the debt where you don't have that asset at the end of it, that is really the key. It's when you're buying stuff and then you're paying for it later down the road. That's where people get into trouble. And it's just people can spiral out of that.
So I say it like this: it's an investment, versus a liability, right?
Yes.
So like having whether it's a condo or a house, right, you're buying, that is something that if the shit hit the fan, you could sell it. And seeing as if the market didn't crash, right, you could probably, at least break, hopefully at least break even or something like that. There's a lot of different, pun totally intended, school of thought when it comes to student loans, because people can go, well, isn't that an intellectual asset? But if you're not, it's not a guarantee. So
right.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, great question. So, you can't become a doctor without, having, I would say, above average debt, a lot of debt. You're not going to get your PhD. You're not going to be, physical therapist. There's some things that it's like you are going to have to take out debt for it realistically. And the risk of that is, okay, that's fine, but now you're kind of pigeonholed into this place where you have to get a job that can pay that back. Or if you go 7 out of 8 years to get your doctorate in, brain surgery, and you decide, I really like art, actually, and so I'm going to become an artist, that's not really an option now. Like you have to finish, you have to get the job to pay back that debt. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to be this, free spirit artist that you want to be. Where on the flip side of that, if you're, a social worker, a teacher, entrepreneur, even like taking out a bunch of debt to get those kinds of degrees, I don't think is a good idea. Just because you're not in school for as long a time, and you've got to look at the potential salaries at the end of that and see, is it realistic for me to take out $200K to get, a $40K job, right? Those numbers need to be flipped if possible. And then of course, the salary needs to be considered when looking at the total debt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. So a lot of the people who listen to my show are entrepreneurs, want to be entrepreneurs, or are side hustling, and they want to get out of the corporate job, and they're listening right now from their desk with like one AirPod in and like trying to hide and taking 500 bathroom breaks. I know what you're doing. I used to do it. Or listening in their car at lunch. So shout out to you guys for learning and doing what you can and working the system, because I'm all about that. So when people who are really wanting to do a big pivot like you and your husband did, right? When you want to start a business, whether it's an online personal brand, whether it's you're going to join with a network marketing company and make that your business, whatever it is, a fitness coach, you do have to spend money in order to make money. So what is your philosophy on that? I mean, you do have to buy your URL. You do have to, pay for a website platform. There are things you have to pay for. You need to pay. Most people need to pay for some kind of a coach, whether it's a business coach, a group coaching program to learn, what the fuck they need to do. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, that's great. So I'll kind of give my experience and what I recommend to my clients that come to me in the same situation. So after that initial investment in 2017, like I said, we were upside down on the credit card for a little bit. We had both switched jobs. We were going for it. Again, not advised to do that at the same time as your spouse. But we did that. And after the initial investment, I DIY'd the crap out of my business. I took that initial investment and I ran with that for about a year. I didn't have to spend too much besides, my website is Squarespace, which is like $100 for a year. For my billing, I did Stripe, which is, very, very low fee. It's less than like 3%. So I did a lot of research. I networked a lot and I talked to a lot of people to see like, okay, how can I literally bootstrap this with $1,300 and run with it, which I made a huge, return on investment. That first year was incredible because I spent the money to make the money in the beginning. And then, I was just selling and I was hustling and doing a lot of just like time exchanged for money. Now, so that would be my advice for the people that are like you said, sitting at their job, how do I get out of this? Right. I totally remember being there. Now, as I scale, it is a lot more investing to grow and investing to like, okay, I'm ready to go to the next level now. I need help, right? I need to find someone who's been down this road. I need to find someone who can give me the tools and the skills that I need more than what I already have. And that's possible now as revenues coming in and things like that. So the initial investment, again, DIY, messy action. I love that phrase in the financial community is like, just take messy action. It doesn't have to be perfect. The website, the design, it doesn't have to look like you're, a multi-six-figure business before you are. If you're helping people and filling a need, people are going to come to you and you're going to be successful even in the beginning.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you guys, there's always an option. It's so funny. I so always encourage, you to reach out and DM me at ProjectME with Tiffany. DM my guests, DM Jessie at financial_coach_Jess, JESS. We are offering you, you DM me, you're getting guidance from a self-made multimillionaire. Like, I guarantee you, you probably personally don't know any multimillionaires. And it's crazy how often I say that, yet such a small percentage of people take advantage of it. I know that Jess, she checks her DMs because that's how we met. So I feel comfortable, sending people to your DMs, but I feel confident she'll answer you. Like you get, for free. I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
don't take advantage of it, but it's like she'll help at least put you in the right direction. So there are free experts out there who
Yeah.
are coming from a place of service that want to help you. So for sure, take advantage of that, because I know a lot of people are lost. Like, you're in a mountain of debt and you don't feel you can get ahead because you're making the minimum payment on the credit card. You may or may not have a student loan. If you do, you have that too. And then you have a car, and then at the end of the day, you're either left with nothing or you're in the negative. So I know it's not all one size fits all, but what is a good rule of thumb in paying off credit card debt? Like, should you be making the minimum payments? I mean, really, if you do the math and you're making the minimum payments and you have like $10K or more in debt, you'll be paying that off for like an eternity.
Exactly. Credit card debt it's like one of the most addictive, almost drugs in our society right now. I mean, it's a beautiful day if I don't get a credit card offer in the mail. Like, literally every day I go out to the mailbox, there's a credit card offer, either with my name on it, my husband's name, the people that lived here before us.
Totally.
Even maybe, like they're aggressive, and they know it works. They know it's a trap. Even like these gimmicky, like, get airplane miles, get, cash back, all this stuff. And it's like people will spend, thousands of dollars in interest to get like a couple hundred in cash back. Like, the math doesn't make sense. They've just got this down to such a science. I say run away from all credit card debt. Like, there is no reason. Credit card debt is simply a symptom of not being able to live within your means. If you're in that on a regular basis, like if it's been a couple years, even like 6 to 12 months, and you're just like, man, this credit card debt is not going away, you really need to be intentional about getting that off your back, because it is honestly a trap. And it's so hard to get rid of once you're in it.
So what are the steps someone can take to start paying off this credit card debt wisely?
Sure. So I'm kind of assuming, so a budget obviously is going to be the very, very first step. So we talked a little bit in the beginning about being in control of your money, and how you control the money is you make a budget. And I know
everyone just had a small panic attack, right?
Yes. So it's kind of this negative connotation of like, you kind of have flashbacks maybe to when you were like little and your parents are fighting about money, and like, they tell you we can't afford this and we can't afford that. And you ask for stuff in the store and they're like, no, that's not what a budget is. So I don't want you to like have this mentality of like the flashbacks of just saying no all the time, because that's definitely not what I teach. That's not the mindset that I teach. That's not the mindset that I have when it comes to money. I'm not saying no all the time. I definitely say yes more than I say no. But a budget simply puts you in the driver's seat. It gives you back that control, and you start telling the money where to go. So budget is definitely the first thing. I've got my budget downloadable for free as well. It's the one that I use. It's the one my clients use. I don't, walk you through, okay, now put this category here and this here, but you plug in the numbers yourself, and it tells you, this is where you're over or under. But yeah, I've got that downloadable for free. And after you've got that under control, I would start with the smallest debt. So this will help you stay motivated, especially if you're newer into like budgeting and you're trying to pay off debt for the first time. Definitely start with the smallest one, because that's going to get you the quickest win that you can get while paying off debt. So let's say you've got a debt of $500 on the credit card, and you look at the budget, you're like, okay, I can pay this off in 2 months. In 2 months, you plan on a small celebration, right? We want to celebrate these wins. We want to get these wins, because that's going to motivate you to, okay, I conquered the $500 debt. Now let's go after, this other card that has $1,500 on it, plan it out the same way, and just rinse and repeat. Keep doing that from the smallest to the largest. Definitely, I would start with the credit card debt first.
Wow. I really appreciate you saying start small, because I bet you that most everyone listening goes, oh my God, I would have thought, my credit card that has 8,000 or some people have 25,000. Like, I thought you'd go after the biggest one, but it makes a lot of sense what you said. So I get asked this question a lot of, Tiffany, how much should I be, percentage wise, right? How much should I be saving From my every month, what percentage should I, be using for living expenses? What percentage should I use for paying off debt? Do you have a rough rule of percentages for people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So on the budget, it actually, when you plug in the numbers, it'll tell you, your income is going to be obviously the 100%, right? And so when you put housing is whatever number it is, it'll actually pop up what percentage it is of your income. And we want to shoot for housing between 25 to 35%. And that is like all inclusive. So if you're renting and it's, 30%, I would say you're right on the money. If you have a house and you're pushing like 35 to 40%, that's not as good because there's always going to be stuff that comes up with a house.
Like meaning when something breaks and you're renting, you call the landlord. When you own it, which by the way, it happens a lot. When you own it and something breaks, if you don't know how to fix it, you have to spend money.
Yes. And it always happens when you don't have the money. So be aware of that as well. When things are tight, that's when stuff starts breaking down. Housing is usually 25 to about 35%. And it all gets a little bit thrown off depending on how much of your money is going toward debt. But typically we want to be giving 10%. We want to be saving close to 20%. And then we want to be investing 15% of that 22. And again, it'll vary depending on how much of your money is going to debt. If you're over in this category, under in that category, they will shift a little bit.
So wait, let me recap to make sure, because I know people are probably writing this down right now. So for your housing, and you mean all in, including like utilities and stuff too, right? Like cable. Okay. So your housing, including, your Wi-Fi, all cable, all of it is between 25 and 35%. You said for savings, like actually saving money, would you say if you're in again, there's not one size fits all, but if you can save, 10%, that would be a solid start?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would do 10%. And let me kind of speak on that for a second too.
Sure.
So with paying off debt, what we don't want to do is be cash poor when we're paying off debt. So let's say, okay, you paid off, that $500 debt that we mentioned earlier. And you're like, okay, I'm going to start paying off this higher debt now. And the car breaks down and you're like, well, I don't have any money. So I got to put $500 back on the card that I just paid off. And now you're defeated because you're right back where you were 2 months ago, right? So we want to avoid that scenario by having a small emergency fund. So the small emergency fund, as like a base number, I usually say $1,000 for my client. But it depends. If I get a client that's married, has a house, has 2 kids, has a dog, a cat, it's just like all these different things, I'll go up. So it just depends. Kind of look at the risk in your life. If you've got an older car, if you've got, questionable living situation, if, you might lose your roommate or something like that, look at that and kind of determine from the amount of risk that you have, how big that emergency fund should be. So I start with 1,000. That's kind of my base. And then depending on that, I'll move it up, looking at their life and all that. So
would you have someone starting to, let's just use that 10% number again. Would you have someone take that 10% and put it into savings to build that emergency fund versus taking that same 10% and put it towards paying off a credit card?
Yes, at first I would. So once you have that emergency fund built up, then if the car breaks down, you're not adding to the debt. You can still use that emergency fund and then just rebuild it. But it's so defeating, and I've seen it happen before, is people pay off debt, something happens, and they go right back to where they were before. And it's heartbreaking. They feel like they've lost time, they've lost motivation. They're like, screw this, I don't want to do a budget anymore. And it's just, it's so defeating.
And to go back to, the whole fitness analogy, which I know you listened to the show, so I'm obsessed with analogies, but it's like when you plateau, when you have a fitness goal, whether it's to like lean up or lose weight, whatever it is, and you plateau, and it doesn't last for like a week. and you're like, hey, like, and then you're at week 3 and you've still plateaued and you're like, well, fuck this. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to keep going to the gym and like watching what I eat. It's very similar to when you feel like you've gone maybe 2 steps ahead and now you're taking 3 back. There's a way that you can do this where it helps minimize that risk of that happening. Do you see from the people you work with a certain type of mindset of people who are in the most debt?
Absolutely. Yes. So people come to me, and that is one of the first things that we talk about in our first session is, okay, let's talk about your relationship with money. Because if we don't heal that relationship first, this is never going to work. And even if you want to be debt free and you've got all these dreams and blah, blah, blah. But if you villainize the money and if you villainize, all these different things, it's just going to be this circle of like motivation, crash, spend, and then fed up, motivation, crash. And it's just like a continuous cycle. So that's honestly one of the biggest and most important parts to begin with is like, we look at their mindset. We look at, what is motivating you? What have you grown up with? How did your parents treat money? What is normal for you? And we go through kind of all these different questions to figure out, is this relationship broken? Do we need to spend some time and really almost like recreate what money is? It's a tool. It's something that can help us. And so that's it's a huge part, that mindset piece.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you guys know how passionate I am about, teaching my millionaire mindset concepts and lessons, because I could give you all the business strategy there is that's proven 6-7 figure strategy. But if you don't have your mindset right, you'll subtly sabotage it. The same goes with what, Jessie's saying is she can help you create a plan, I know for a fact, to get you out of debt where you feel in control of your money. You don't feel like, you have like all these credit card companies and loans controlling you. But you probably are going to continue those same negative habits if your belief systems aren't straight. It might not be what people want to hear. It's like most people just want like, well, just give me this, just give me the strategy and tell me how to do it. But what's funny is, it's not funny, but it's sad. Do you see people who kind of blow off the mindset stuff, right? Because that's the harder work to do. It requires a shit ton of discipline. And then they are following, your budget and the stuff that you've helped them create. And then they attract all sorts of like financial emergencies that happen in their life. Do you notice that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And especially, I don't want to like pick on the married people that I work with because they're all phenomenal. But sometimes there's just like this blockade when people are married that like they don't want to, they don't want to be, either it's from a past relationship or a past even situation with their current spouse, is that this like idea of just control and, they don't want to be pushed aside. They want their voice to be heard. But it's really hard, like being married, having money issues and just not being on the same page is honestly one of the worst things that does end up tearing marriages apart. And so getting your mindset, and usually there's a little bit of, compromise and sacrifice involved for sure, but also just, believing the best about the other person and just really, switching that mindset of like, everything is their fault or everything is, this my fault, or in the past, this is what happened. And it's like really just switching the mindset to like, I believe the best about my spouse. Moving forward, we are on the same team. I'm not villainizing them, and we're working together to get over this. So.
I love that the word you keep using, villainize. What a great word, because the thing is in relationships, it's like, you each are in there 100%. So you each are 100% responsible for the debt.
Yeah.
And I can hear people going, well, yeah, but I'm married to, or, my partner or whatever, bought a car and then bought a snowmobile. And then, or she gets her nails and her extensions done all the time. And they want to point the finger, but I guarantee you have a role to play because number one, you're allowing that spending. Right? You're allowing the other person, you're making that acceptable in the relationship. to be financially disrespectful, right? So what do you
Yeah.
do with people who come to you and you only have one of the two in the relationship working with you? Like, how do you coach them to present this budget to their significant other?
That's a great question. So in the beginning, and it was advice given to me, and I'm so glad that I took it and really ran with it up till now, even, is that I don't work, if there's a married couple, I don't work with just one spouse, because unless the other one is like overseas or like in the, military, something very like extreme. I don't work with just one spouse, because it festers this, like, I've got the financial coach on my team. So what I say is more important, than what you're saying. And so it tends to drive a wedge even further when when a financial coach only works with one spouse. So I even say, like, just have them come to the first, consultation. Let's get them on the phone, because it is a lot of the time like, I want to do this. I haven't even talked to my spouse about it. I'm scared to. I don't know what they'll say, but like, we're in a bad situation. And so I usually, hey, let's just get them on the phone. I'll give you a couple weeks, talk to them about it, warm them up to the idea. And generally that helps. Like, I say, I want to work with both of you, and I want you both to want to work together on this. And generally that helps them just even switch to like, okay, we are on the same team, and that's how we need to be presented in this, and that's how we need to conquer this. And so that generally helps, but I'm really glad I took that advice, just because I can totally see how, one spouse then goes back to the other one, and it just drives that wedge further.
Yeah, absolutely. Then it's kind of like when one part of the relationship goes to therapy and the other doesn't. And it's like, well, my therapist says, and by the way, that used to be me. I'd be like, well, my therapist says, and it's like, oh my, it's like, okay, that doesn't work. So earlier on in the interview, you talked about, the epidemic of, credit cards and the addiction cycle it creates. I want to talk about that, like the process that goes through most people's minds and the stuff that you're seeing accumulated on credit cards. And by the way, you guys, there's tons of, facts to back this up. Most of the shit that's on people's credit cards isn't like, I'm investing in, hiring Tiffany as a coach, or, I had a, serious medical condition and I had stuff I had to pay for. Most of the debt on credit cards is like your 80th tank top from Target, nails, a lot of going out to dinner, picking up food. So what kind of mindset things do you teach your students when they're out? I mean, we're being bombarded, right, by advertisements, consumers in the mail to consume, buy. And even if you don't have the money, credit card. What do you teach them to do when they're, walking around Target? And before, their mentality was, well, I can just get it. It's on the credit card. It's not that expensive. What do you teach them to shift?
Awesome. So several, like probably three main different things that we talk about is just having a plan and being prepared. And one of the ways, I know that I can't remember exactly who it was now on I think it was Instagram, but they don't take a cart into Target. Because they'll just put stuff in it, and like they'll see stuff and it'll just go in, and literally it just helps them so much, like only grab what they need and what they went in for. And honestly, before I even saw that, I do the same thing at Costco, because if I'm just going through and I'm like, oh, this meal would be so nice just to have for later, and like, it's not what I planned for, but I'm here and whatever, but I won't take a card in. So a lot of it is just preparing and planning ahead of time. When we don't have a plan, when we're not planning out our meals or planning out, different even events, weddings and bachelorette parties and showers, and those, if you have a lot of friends getting married at the same time, that is a very expensive time of life when you're in all these weddings and doing that. So planning ahead, preparing, that is a huge point that we talk about, depending on what they're struggling with. Is it bigger events? Is it the smaller, Jimmy John's for lunch 7 days a week and things like that? So that's a huge part, is just being prepared and planning. And I would say the second thing is remembering their why and remembering why they started. I always say, like, being broke is really, really hard. Getting out of debt is also really, really hard. And we need to decide which one we're going to be doing. Because if you want to stay broke, it's hard. The kitchen floor meltdowns, I've been there, when it just hits you, stuff goes wrong that you didn't plan for. There's no emergency fund. And, you're just crying on the kitchen floor. And then there's also the side of it where it's like getting out of debt and saying no and Target is also really, really hard. But there's a result at the end of that that's so much better than the alternative, which is being in your house and just, crushed again, right, for the 10th time or whatever. So
right, because getting out of debt is hard work. Doing the mindset work is hard work, but you're taking action towards something good's going to come out of it. Staying in that same broke cycle is insanity. It's just it's going to lead, I mean, it truly does lead people, as we all know, it leads to most divorces. It leads people to have depression, anxiety, and then be medicated for it. It even leads people to suicide. I mean, it is so it's so defeating when you're broke and you don't feel you can get out of it. So I really like what you said there. It's at least you're taking action. I mean, saying no to that tank top in Target, or even saying no to getting one of their enormous carts, which, by the way, you guys, because I've been in, the marketing world for my entire career, that's strategic too. The giant cart, because when you only put 2 things in it, in a giant cart, it seems like you really haven't picked up that much. So
feels
it's
kind of awkward.
Yeah, it's right.
Yeah.
And it's a subconscious thing. It actually is awkward. Perfect example. Like going through Costco and you have like 2 things in this enormous cart. It's like you almost feel like you look stupid pushing around a cart with that much space. They've thought about all of that. Everything is strategic, including the color of the cart, the red cart. Red makes you take rapid, fast, impulsive decisions. That is also thought about. So this goes back to, what Jessie said. You be in control of your fucking money. You be in control of your debt. Yeah, you're in debt, but don't look at it like I'm in debt. I'm a piece of shit. I'm buried in it. Say, nope, I'm going to climb it. I'm going to get out of this. It's empowering. Say no to the cart at Target. What about online shopping, right? Like Amazon Prime. Okay. Like, I mean, there's brown boxes here every week, just saying. But online shopping really becomes impulsive, right? You're not having to drive somewhere. A lot of people, you get ads and stuff and Instagram and Facebook. And then all of a sudden you're like buying a cute necklace that you never even knew you needed and you don't need. So what types of things do you teach people to do around the temptations of online shopping?
Yeah. So something strategic that we put in the budget for all my clients every month, and the amount is different depending on their goals, depending on their normal, what they've been doing before, and that's fun money. And so I also call it like the sanity money. Like if you just need to splurge, if you're just having a bad day, we talk about, there's other ways to reward ourselves. We don't always have to spend money. But sometimes it's like you do need to take care of you. And so that's where the fun money comes in. So you get a certain amount of money. Once it's gone, though, it's gone. And that goes back to the online shopping. Well, if you're not using cash, the money doesn't really feel gone. And so what can you do? So something that I think is really important is to delete any apps that give you that online shopping capability. And it's self-control and it's self-discipline, but it's also like pre-planned self-discipline so that, we all have our strong moments and our weak moments. Like we're not always going to have those strong moments. We ebb and flow. But when those weak moments come, the more that we can be prepared for those and expect them and not say, I'm never having another weak moment again. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have those. But being able to say, okay, I've planned for this moment of weakness. Here's what I'm going to do. And not having the apps on your phone is huge. Taking your cards off of Amazon.
Ding, ding. Oh, girl, you're so smart. You guys want to know something sad? I'm embarrassed, but I have to admit it to you, Jessie. And we can see each other because I always do all the interviews on video. I have my credit card memorized, one of my prime credit card numbers. And so any of you who have it memorized, I would call the credit card company and say you want a new credit card. Not that it was stolen, just say you need a new credit card number. So if you have it memorized, but you know what they've done to get around that from having your credit card stored, like you said, that's brilliant. Like remove any credit card number that's stored. But you know what they've done to even further get the impulse people? Have you noticed they've added the PayPal feature on most things?
Yeah.
So basically remove your credit card off. You'd have to remove your credit card off PayPal too. Because it gives you more time, right? Like if you have to type in all your shit, it gives you more time. This is like an addiction. So it gives you more time to think, God, how bad do I really want this? It takes that impulsivity out of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, taking your cards off. Because usually I find that also noticing just like when and where am I having these moments of weakness? Like for me, my husband probably hasn't come home from work yet, or he's on a work trip. I'm home by myself. I'm bored. Right. And so I'm on the couch going through my Amazon list, all the things I saved that I'm like, oh, someday I'm going to buy these, today's the day. And it's like, okay, if I took my cards off, if I deleted the app, I'd have to get up, go to my computer to browse. I don't want to do that. Right. I'd have to go to my purse, get my card out of my wallet. This is just becoming a lot of work. I don't think I want to do this anymore. Right. And so it's making it just those little steps to make it a little bit more difficult for you. And it gives your brain more time to say, okay, am I doing this because it's a habit? Do I really want this? Is it worth the work to get up and go do this? So, and yeah, if you've got your card memorized, getting a new card, they're more than happy to give you a new card. So
yeah. And I did that, by the way. I had to come to Jesus. I was I'm conservative financially. And you guys listening and who follow me on Instagram and Facebook at ProjectME with Tiffany are probably like, girl, you're not conservative. You take, 5-star first class trips all over the world. It's all relative. I actually am very financially conservative compared to my earnings. Most people who earn what I earn and have what I have in the bank would have a Ferrari in the driveway. Right. Yeah. But I am very conservative because, you guys know who are avid listeners of mine is that by the time I was 30, I had $1 million in the bank and I lost all of it in 3 months. So I've done a lot of this work. There wasn't a Jessie available at the time, but I would have gone to someone like you know what I mean, to help me figure out how the fuck did this happen? So what I want to touch on, you guys, is instead of focusing on all the shit you can't buy, all the stuff you want, when you scroll the gram and you're like, oh, I want to be able to do the trip, all those low vibe feelings, I want to be able to do the trip, or even I want to be able to go out to dinner multiple times a week or get my nails done. Then you start feeling defeated. How about instead you focus your energy and time on how can I earn more fucking money? How about that?
Yes. Amen.
Right? Is that part of the process that you work on with people is, yes, let's get you out of debt. But the more revenue, the more money you're bringing into your life, the faster we can get you out of debt. Hello?
Yeah. For sure. So the first thing that we do is the budget, because if people don't have control over their money, it doesn't matter how much they're going to be making. They're not going to know where it goes.
True.
So the budget is the first thing, knowing where it goes. And then once they've got that under control, I've got a client right now that is killing the side hustle game. She is making so much side money. She's doing Instacart. I don't even know, probably 10 to 20 hours a week, just crazy Instacart money. She picked up a part-time job at a library, super low stress, super low key, making $8 or $9 an hour. She is absolutely bringing in several $100s a month extra. Yeah. And I'm just so blown away. And that's the next step. So after you've got the budgeting, after you know where the money's going, you feel like you're in control. Now let's fast track this system to get you out of debt as fast as we can. Because obviously you're saving money on interest, but it's also just the motivation, and it kind of goes back to the mindset too of just how can I expedite this to get it gone, because that is going to keep me motivated and that's going to keep me hustling. You don't have to work 60 hours for the rest of your life, obviously. Maybe even for a short time, that wouldn't be good mentally for you, but just bringing in that extra money and helping you get out of debt faster, it makes all the worlds of difference when you're doing that.
I love all these tips. If you guys found this episode helpful, whether you're in a little bit of debt, a lot of debt, or don't want to get into it, do me a favor. Do us a favor. I want you guys to take a screenshot right now and share this episode so that you can help other people. A lot of people don't like talking about money, so you just sharing the episode on Facebook and your Instagram stories, this is really going to help other friends and family of yours. Maybe you can have your significant other listen to the episode, and you were just like, hey, like, I found this really interesting. These two ladies were talking about debt and how to get out of it. That's a really, really good, gentle start to sharing this with other people in your life. But make sure when you share it, tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany. Also tag Jessie at financial_coach_Jess, JESS. If you're driving and you're multitasking, which I know a lot of you are, and you don't remember Jessie's Instagram, it's okay. Just tag me and then I'll share it and I'll tag her. Okay. So making sure that she can see it. Plus, then you guys will have her handle. So if you want to DM her with any questions, it'll be easy to do that. But this is a true gift to share this episode. If you found it helpful, if you have some takeaways or some things you can adjust, like I came to the conclusion of my credit card thing on my own. Right. Of that credit card being memorized and having it changed. But it's like, I'm not in any debt. The only debt I'm in is what I call investment debt. Right. So that's true asset debt, and also debt to grow a business. Because when you have a business and you're growing it, you're always going to carry debt. Facebook carries debt. Amazon carries debt. All companies have debt carryovers. So I do have that kind of debt, but I'm not in any, so to speak, consumer debt, but still I don't want to get there. So I had to have a come to Jesus with myself. I was like, this is fucking dangerous. I'm talking, I had the code, the expiration date memorized. That. And by the way, the credit card company was and they FedExed it to me. They don't want you to stop spending. They were like, oh, absolutely. I didn't tell them, hey, I haven't memorized and I'm spending too much. I just said, you know what? I think someone saw my credit card number when I was out. It's not stolen, but I'd really like a new card with a new number. Absolutely. Yeah. So are there any final words of wisdom that you want to share with the audience, the people who are sitting there feeling pretty defeated, like they can't get ahead?
Yeah, I just want to encourage you that honestly, I've seen it all. I've seen people living so closely paycheck to paycheck. They are one anything away from losing a house, going bankrupt, all these things. And it is possible for you, because I've seen them turn these situations around and they are not out of it. So I just really want to encourage you, no matter where you're at, there's so many resources. Like I said, get in touch with me. I'm giving away my budget right now. And you can turn this around too. There's nothing, I don't believe that there's anything that's too far gone that you can't bring this to where you want it to be, and then just continue to grow it and really cut back on the debt from there.
Where can people get this done for you budget template that you've created for them?
Right now it's in the link in my bio at the very bottom of the page. It'll be on my website when the website is finished, but I'm not exactly sure on the date on that.
So you guys just DM her on Instagram or message her on Facebook at financial_coach_Jess. And then on Facebook, there's no underscores. And then she'll send it to you. So you guys have something to start with that you can do yourself. Well, thank you so much for your time and all of your great tips and your outlook on debt. This was really enlightening.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I just enjoy your energy, and I can tell you love your followers and just the people that listen to your podcast. And this was a great experience, just getting to know you more and being here. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye, girl.
See ya.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.